Hello, everyone. I am finally back. I know it's been a long time since I've sat down and filmed a video for this channel. I promise that I'm going to be making more content this fall. We're going to get back into it. I have this new album to talk about here by Swedish artist Jonna Lee, also known as I Am I, Who Am I? And this album is technically her seventh studio album, but it is only her third under her name Jonna Lee, stylized with an I for the Swedish pronunciation. But I Am I, Who Am I, as Jonna has been more and more talking about, is just an extension of herself. There's less and less separation, I believe, that Jonna is seeing between those projects. And so it's becoming, I think, a little bit more superfluous, whether it's an I Am project or a Jonna Lee project. The only real distinction that I can think of is that all of the I Am I, Who Am I projects all have visual components for every single song. Whereas the Jonna Lee records, the last one she put out technically was in 2019, Remember the Future, it only had visuals for several songs. And so far with Close Your Eyes, which is the new English language version of this double album that she has put out, one in English, one in Swedish, we'll get to that. There have only been music videos made for 4 out of the 10 songs so far. I don't know if there are going to be any more. This was part of a project, a generate crowdfund kind of project that she started launching last year. That ended up becoming, because of the funds of people donating, ended up becoming a full-fledged album that was originally going to come out in June, around June 21st. But a couple weeks before, Jonna announced that the album would be delayed until September 13th, this past Friday as of filming. Claes Björklund is once again her go-to producer on almost all of her works. And, they are such a wonderful pair, along with the visual director of Jan Strand, who is also her, I believe, her romantic partner. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. She had a baby boy named Bauer 2 years ago. That was, of course, a huge part of the Be Here Soon album campaign, was this idea around her being an expectant mother. She talks about how this album was created in 2023 in the moments that Bauer was sleeping, and she could sort of find time in the middle of the night to sort of hush-hushedly create and record the vocals. That this album was born out of a very difficult year for her. I believe she had some family and friends go through some very difficult hardships personally, and like health issues with some of her loved ones in particular. And so there was a heaviness that she was contemplating, that she was dealing with. But there was also sort of this sorrow of the coming back to Stockholm after having moved out for the first time in 2 decades to sort of live closer to, I believe, where she originally grew up, to raise her child. And when she would come back to Stockholm and come into an apartment, she felt suddenly like a stranger in a city she had once lived in for so long. And there's just this interesting sort of dissonance there that she's kind of remarking upon. And she also felt compelled to explore her native language. And that's how the Swedish counterpart to this album, BLUND, was created. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that BLUND is pretty much a rough translation of all of the English lyrics that are presented to us in the English version of this record. And I'm also pretty sure that the instrumentation is all the same between the 2 records. I am not 100% certain on that, but I will admit I have not listened to BLUND at all. I have only listened as an English speaker to her English language songs that she put out, with the exception of track number 11 on BLUND, which is called Sommaren Armin och jag kommer tillbaka, which is Summer Never Ended, The Damage Was All of Mine. For those of us who remember from 2021, I actually reviewed that song. That was the first time she did this sort of dual language thing. And then I was happy to see the album actually find a home on this project, even though you would have thought it would have been on Be Here Soon, because that was the album that came out not long after that. But 3 years later, this what we thought was standalone single found a home on her Swedish project. There is the English version, but interestingly, the English version was not attached to Close Your Eyes. It was only the Swedish version, which was actually the version that I had always been listening to on my phone. That was the version that was attached to BLUND as an 11th track. So I found that very interesting. So that's the only song of the Swedish version that I've been listening to. The rest has all been the English versions. So correct me if I'm wrong, if there are any differences in instrumentation and anything. I mean, obviously the lyrics aren't going to be word for word. Interestingly, a good example of that is that the English language title for this album is Close Your Eyes, but the Swedish title, BLUND, roughly more translates to blink, rather than what Close Your Eyes would be probably more accurately translated to in Swedish. And if you think about it, those are very different concepts that we're dealing with. You know, Close Your Eyes is sort of a obviously kind of allusion to meditation, to kind of going to sleep, potentially death. It's something that, you know, is kind of symbolic of, you know, hibernation. Like, we're not talking about blinking, which blinking is sort of more symbolic of just like a quick refresh, cleaning the lens. Blinking is how we hydrate our eyes. It's very different from the idea of closing your eyes, perhaps indefinitely. That's where I do wonder if the Swedish, you know, any Swedish Jonna Lee fans, if they want to, you know, like chime in on that. That's where I do start to wonder. I mean, I was looking at the track titles and, you know, I was putting them into the translator and they all did look like they were rough translations, you know, a little different here and there, but that's just language. But Close Your Eyes and BLUND are not the same thing. They don't quite mean the same thing. So there's similarity. It's all about closing the eyelids briefly or for a long period of time. But I find that very interesting. But anywho, again, I apologize if you wanted to hear me talk about the Swedish version. I am going to be talking about the English version of this project. I do love both album covers though. Actually, I might even prefer the Swedish album cover just a little bit more. However, I do love the shot of her in front of the lake. And the visuals for this project, and also to a large extent the soundscapes, are very reminiscent of her 2014 album Blue, which is one of my personal favorite I Am I, Who Am I / Jonna Lee projects. She, you know, recognized that it was the 10-year anniversary of that project, and I think there was an intentional callback being made visually and sonically. Though when we first heard some of the singles, I was getting excited that this album would be even more in the sonic realm of Blue. But when I heard the rest of the album as it came out, I'm not going to lie, it sort of skewed my expectations. This album does not actually sound nearly as similar to Blue to me as some of the lead singles might have led you to believe. Luminary Rainbows is definitely the most Blue sounding song on this record. Unfortunately, the rest of the album doesn't quite sound like Luminary Rainbows, or even La La Love or Innocence of Sound, which I'm going to kind of spoil my own review here and just get right to the jump and say those are by far leaps and bounds the best songs on this project. They stand above the rest so highly that it's a little unfortunate that I have to say this, but I'm very underwhelmed by most of the other tracks on this project. It pains me to say, but this might actually be my least favorite Jonna Lee project. It feels a little underbaked sonically and in terms of, I mean, obviously the lyrics are what I'm going to focus on in this review because I don't want to be all negative here and just say I don't like this song and not give it its fair shot to explain its meaning. All of these songs are baked with meaning, baked with emotional weight, and I want to pay homage to that. But I have to be honest, if we're talking about ambiance, if we're talking about instrumentation, the production choices, the chorus, the melody lines, they're not hitting for me. This is probably her least melodic album that she's put out, at least for a long time. I think that, you know, she's always been experimental, and there's usually one or two songs on a Jonna Lee project that I'm like, I respect it, but it's not my favorite. But unfortunately, on this project, there are just more than I kind of am used to getting. And I was a little bit underwhelmed, especially at the fact that all of the best songs I felt were front loaded and the rest was kind of like underwhelming on release day. I was like, oh, I've already heard the best that this album has to offer. So I'm sorry. I mean, I have to be honest on this channel. I don't want to sugarcoat. I wanted to review this project regardless of my thoughts on all the overall songs because I just love Jonna. I've reviewed all of her projects on my channel so far. I reviewed Innocence of Sound when it came out back in March, and I had glowing things to say about it. That song has only grown on me over time to become, I mean, this complete escapist song for me. I am absolutely in love with the synth chords, with the sort of running through the forest kind of frantic energy that it has, this euphoric kind of ecstatic energy. I mean, it really does evoke the songs of Blue, the best of some of Jonna Lee's projects. Whereas some of the other songs perhaps maybe are a little more evocative of Bounty or of Kin, which, you know, I still really love as projects, but there were a couple songs on Kin I wasn't always so fond of sonically. And maybe this is sort of a reiteration of that for me. And yeah, again, it's just about managing expectations. I think this album actually, in some places, sounds a lot more like Kin or a lot more like Remember the Future than it does Blue. And it's really only those standalone singles that are carrying that heraldry. Track number 1, La La Love, was the second single to be released, which also is called La La Love in Swedish. It is the one song on the record that has the same title on both versions. They say the world is drawing to a close, flooding with unhappiness, and nobody knows what is true, what is real. Tell me now, do you feel? La 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 love. Disorder and chaos, and in the end, we all have little time to spend. My la la love just lost hers. It is clear life is something you should fear. Do you fear? I stick my feet into the ground, feeling the pulsating sound. I don't feel sorrow anymore. I don't feel loneliness at all. I don't feel more. I don't feel less. I hold my breath to hear the rhythm, refusing to believe nothing could be bigger than this. And then love as the refrain and the outro. This has such a playful synth keyboard moment that really embeds itself under the skin, making it one of the poppier sounding songs on the record, one of the more easy listening songs on the record with more of a very easily identifiable melody upon first listen, which I really appreciate. But then it has this transition into harder EDM, which is left field, but a really interesting moment that I feel this album could use more of. There's definitely, I feel, a little bit of autopilot going on with some of the production, and I like how this song keeps you on its toes, keeps you on your toes. And I love the visuals for the music video, with the bed that she's resting in the middle of this barren winter landscape and the beautiful Swedish vistas that she films herself amongst. There's such a melancholy to all of the vistas that Jonna Lee has. Probably one of the most beautiful countries in the world as a backdrop to just film music videos in. And it fits the Swedish landscape perfectly. But there's a springtime feel. There's a warmth to this song. There's a warmth to the keyboard. And I really find this one endearing melodically. Even though it is a heavy song lyrically, finding love in all of the unhappiness and sorrow that is pervasive around the world and surrounding you sometimes. It's suffocating. How do you kind of, there's a real taking root in the earth feeling to this of like, I'm going to stick in my truth. I'm going to stick my feet in the earth, and I'm going to channel the truth of my existence, which is about love. That is what I am here to be a beacon for, to feel inside and spread amongst others. I've already talked about Innocence of Sound, but I will just reiterate that I think, again, a really euphoric, melancholic, but blissed out chorus melody, very propulsive, a great kind of running song. I feel the drive and the push to explore this wanderlust, this craving to keep creating, to find the magic in sound and music. I keep to the innocence of the sound, and it doesn't stop coming because I kick it alive. Music being her lifeline is very, this is very apparent from like way Jonna is singing here. Music is the tether, the cord that keeps her together. And then track number 3, Not Your Cherry, is the one single that has grown on me, and I think I appreciate more now that the album is fully out. When it first came out, I wasn't necessarily like itching to hear it again once I heard it the first time. But now that I've got the full project, I'm realizing that this is still one of the more interesting songs I think that we have on offer. I'm starting to really appreciate the interesting kind of subtle instrumental shifts. There's a lot more beneath the surface. And I think listening to it in headphones is a much more rewarding experience because you pick up on all of those ambient kind of backings of the guitar and the synth. Never was as little lost in a riddle, standing in the middle of someone else's high. Put on top to make you shine in, a scent of sweat and pine, and preaching lines that really got inside my head. Should have known I am a sailor, made to roam the seas, and that's where I belong, and not floating on a wire. The weakness in a genius, mind, is stupidity, surrounds it, some silver lining. Oh no, no way, I'm not your cherry, not lighting your dark with my luminary. I love that line, that rhyme. It's not a song I'd sing, it's not my place to be, forever spinning in a hurricane. The laws of attraction for similar imperfections become swift transactions when the world is growing wild. We'll only itch and tether, reaching away forever, away from each other. Oh, I'm not your cherry, forever spinning in a hurricane. I'm not your cherry, I'm not using your worn vocabulary. It's not my song, you sing it. I'll be over here, forever dancing in the rain. In Jonna Lee lore, cherries were a part on strawberries more particularly. In the early days of Am I, Who Am I, and some of the visuals, there were, strawberries used in some of these esoteric visuals. And so I wonder if that is a little bit of a callback symbolically. I think cherry is considered to be a stand-in for female sexuality. Obviously, the allusion to popping one's cherry is what comes to mind if we're thinking on this metaphor. And so I think it's not hard to extrapolate from these lyrics that Jonna is telling off someone, saying, hold on, I am not your female plaything, not your sexual plaything. I am not, going to be a part of some swift transaction. I'm reading into that a little bit as potentially sexual. So, maybe this is sort of a telling some guy off who hopefully she's not singing about her partner. She's singing about someone else that she's been with, or, a hypothetical. There's also allusions to, I'm not lighting your dark with my luminary. I'm not gracing your space with my presence. It's not purely sexual. It's also about just being around someone. And there's also a little bit of an allusion to, it's not my song, you sing it. Perhaps not wanting to be a part of someone's narrative, someone's lifestyle choices. I'm not using your worn vocabulary. I'm not going to engage in your, I'm not going to engage in your pettiness. I'm not going to, maybe you could take it more literally. I'm not going to sing a song that does not have the kind of prose and poetry of what I can write. I don't think she's taking it that literally, but there's a little bit of flexing there about, your poetry's tattered, okay? Like, my music is a step above. I'm not singing that song. It's a waste of my time. I gotta be honest with you, my least favorite song on this project would be Forgive Her. There's almost some Bjorkian kind of murky percussion that's arrhythmic in the background. It's very volcanic. And then on top of that, it's like, it's very, just her vocals. There's not really a strong melody line that is connecting this melodically. And then there's these sort of warbling synth notes that are kind of mimicking her voice, but trail off a little bit. The song feels aimless sonically, and I have trouble getting into songs like that. It becomes about the lyrics, which are definitely, I think, what, of course, I think is sort of center stage here. In verse 3, there is a way into the mouth of my river. There's a door and it's open wide. Forgive her. There's a time and space for us, so don't linger. Rules we live by as our truth now don't matter. And the north wind won't take no for an answer. On the cliffs of the western walls, I'm your dancer. The lyrics to me are speaking about perhaps leaving Stockholm and coming back and finding the place unfamiliar. Can't claim a space that isn't mine. My seat at the table lacks my initials, say I. Maybe there's, again, some philosophical thinking around humans not connecting in the way they should around you and wanting to find some sort of escape and solace. And in my dreams, only at night, greeted by warm and friendly smiles, there is a space beyond the lines, right underneath the melting ice. I know how to get there in my dreams, only at night. There's a bitterness that I think she's processing here. That, again, to me is speaking about coming to a place that you once felt you knew, but now feel is imploding, becoming foreign to you. Track number 5 probably might be my favorite, or second favorite, because I do love Innocence of Sound. Luminary Rainbows has such a whimsical and idyllic and uplifting wind behind your sails feel to it, and it really does embody the spirit of Blue. So many of songs on that record come to mind sonically, visually. If you look at the music video, her sailing this boat on the perfect pristine blue. Thought I saw your silhouette on the horizon, dark contours. I love how she enunciates dark contours. She really just oozes this sort of idyllic, this blissful, blissed out feeling on a bleak sky. And as I was coming to the end of the blue hour, shapes were shifting in the freezing night. In the chorus, luminary rainbows simulating life forms, shimmering, gone. Ooh, anywhere the wind blows, they will always travel when I arrive. In the refrain, one hand is in control, let the other one go. Such beautiful poetry, stands out, but also you can appreciate the gorgeous ambient, the synth elements. This is the kind of Jonna Lee that I am always going to be here for. Luminary rainbows simulating life forms. Such an interesting line. Like flashes in the sky of pristine beauty, mirroring how I suppose our own lives are ephemeral, and we are almost like a flash of beauty in the midst of rain. Rainbows usually show up a mixture of rain and sun, and that's a juxtaposition that is being explored on this record. Finding beauty in sorrow. There's the clouds part energy to this song, and it just is so blissed out that it will be on repeat for many years. It's a really standout track, and I must admit it came out in August, and it got me so excited for this project. And then the rest of the songs don't quite, we shift gears entirely sonically on track number 6, The End of Every Song. One of the more techno-sounding songs. We're kind of getting to the dancier sections of the record here, like laser-sounding synths, which I don't know, it doesn't feel quite rooted in the way I'd like for my Jonna Lee taste. That's not for everyone. It's just not really for me. But it is interesting. I'm growing to kind of appreciate it. Like I said, Forgive Her is probably the only song that sonically I just cannot get into. They're waiting to hear the end of every song. There's definitely in the lyrics a bit of a calling out to the fans saying, you want me to be this pop star. We want you to give us pure expression. And there's a little bit of a rebellious kind of middle finger to the lyrics of this song a little bit. I don't think it's really towards the fans. I think it's towards the music industry. The way that, artists are marketed to promote themselves, and the way that record labels operate. I think that's what she's rebelling against here. I hear them hushing, waiting for me to soar. come out of the shadows, give us everything you got. We'll probably throw you away in a couple weeks, but at least you bore your soul for us for a couple pennies on Spotify streams. I mean, I don't know. That's how I'm interpreting this. Again, I'd be very curious to hear people's thoughts in the comments. Jonna Lee's lyrics are the meaning can be hard to sort of to derive from them. So forgive me. There is an ominous kind of energy here. Like it's like we're gonna have fun at the club, but I'm gonna stick my middle finger up here. Track number 7, Run Wild. Again, growing on me. There's a little bit of a hook here that I appreciate. Everybody's looking for what's true and doesn't hurt, but truth is hard to swallow. And if I am nobody's daughter, why do they have me into hold? I don't know if that's correct dictation here. I was full of love and laughter only when I lost control, worth my weight in water. You want to see me shining, fly high somewhere I love, rains down, and when it rains down, your rivers never run dry, they run wild. Again, I think coming off of at the end of every song, a similar sentiment of when it rains, it pours, and you will get content from me, very emotional content. You want to see me shine and fly high, but often there's that expectation is like crippling for me, and it puts me in a very negative headspace, makes me very emotional. Darkness is a real place with the choir of my dream. This one's really interesting. It's probably my favorite song that was reserved for release day. You know, out of the songs we'd never heard, there were 6 of them that we hadn't heard before. And there is a second half to this song which has a very prominent vocal that is very recognizable to many of us, and then in Imogen Heap, the inimitable Imogen Heap. And as soon as I heard that, I mean, she's not even written as a feature, so I was like, oh my goodness, what a pleasant surprise. I mean, that really perked my ears up. I got to be honest with you, after some of these other songs, I was kind of feeling a little bit like underwhelmed. I was like, none of these songs are taking off for me sonically. I'm not sure about this record. And then we get to this part and I'm just like, okay, I see what we're doing here. But I didn't realize actually that there are a lot of other features on here. A lot of other artists that she has worked with in the past. Jenny Abramson and Zola Jesus are also contributors to some of the backing vocals. I gotta be honest with you, I only hear Imogen and I hear her, but apparently Ostra, there's a bunch of female artists who are that she's worked with in the past who kind of come together, which is fitting for the idea of like the choir of my dream. It's all of my favorite fellow musicians coming together to sing with me. I mean, it's just wonderful that she was able to have that. And the chorus it's easily recognizable, with only songs to keep us hanging on, and the memories that you made but then forgot. The merciless fear in losing someone, with only songs to keep us hanging on. The longest farewell carries on, the greatness and the littleness of one. Oh, the songs will keep us hanging on, echoing in our minds and in our homes. The good times and the bad will play on. Darkness is a real place is, I think, the thesis statement for this record for her. It's definitely a place that she has visited. I think many of us can say we have. Darkness is a real place. Some live in its shadow, dreaming of its embrace. But when it is standing by your bed, stroking your chin, it changes you forever. There is no second skin. I love those lyrics. It can be a compelling place. It can be a comfortable place. And you can get sucked into it. It's a vacuum. Its magnetic pull is very strong. Wish I could tell you nothing was in vain, that we all are winning. And now you're almost gone, except the pain. The pain keeps on living. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Jonna had a close friend who passed away last year to cancer. And this song is a tribute to her. And so the pain that she is speaking of is largely born of that loss. And so this song is an admission that that pain is never really fully going to go away. But music is the one thing that is here for us. The choir of my dream will be my comfort in this very real dark place that I'm no longer fighting against entering. There are things we long for, but we never really do. We cling to them, although they are a vision untrue. See the ocean, green, blue, see our children growing tall, standing in the ice-cold shimmer of that waterfall. I mean, that's such a sorrowful thing to admit, of all of the hopes and dreams that you might have had with this person who's now gone. Seeing our children growing tall together. I mean, I don't know if this person had children, but that's a heavy thing to kind of to mourn. The lost possibility, the lost future that you had with this person. Song will be our life rope, our lifeline. And boy, does this song take off and allow that embrace. It's a gorgeous layering of vocals, of harmonies, with this repetitive mantra-like chorus that is hopeful. It's got a hopeful tinge to it. The song, for all that it has a dark title, has a very hopeful kind of chord progression. And so one of the standouts for sure, definitely one of the strongest songs on the project. Track number 9, You Hold Me Like Water, with some interesting instrumentation in here, some strings in here, I think. But once again, not leaping off the page, I hate to admit. How can you say I'm the light in your dark when you hold me like water running through your fingers? I guess I take that to sort of to imply that you do a pretty bad job at containing, to keep at keeping me in your life. You keep pushing me away. You don't know how to keep me coming back for more. Whenever I'm with you, I keep finding reasons that I should escape. And it's like almost a compulsion to escape. And yet you claim that I am your light, your God-sent gift on earth, that I'm your light in your dark. That's a really interesting metaphor there. And finally, who? I'm sick, I'm sore, I'm tired of running. They're hunters, they will stop at nothing. Showing you all my brave, I thought you'd keep me safe. It's after, over, they're still hoping. Using only words nobody's spoken. They call me woman of shame. Who are you to call my name? A throwback to Call My Name on Be Here Soon. I'm beat, I'm sore, I'm tired of hoping. I'm at the exit. Where are we going? Oh, take me somewhere safe. I need to see your face. Obviously, I am I, who am I comes to mind when you have a song called Who. Who am I? Begs the question. I think this song is the sort of what I would consider to be like Imogen Heap-esque, glittery, shimmering keyboards, and that ambient kind of outdoor kind of sound, that field recording that it sounds like is in the background of a forest or a field or meadow. It has this idyllic kind of intrigue, and then this pounding beat and rhythm and kind of swell in the synths is kind of evocative of some of the stuff on Kin. I'm getting Kin vibes from this song very strongly. It reminds me a little bit of on the song Drops. There's this kind of like really strong BPM kind of pulse that's frantic. It's a little anxious. And yet there's also supposed to be this sort of like ethereal layer above it. And it kind of, and also a bit in Sever as well. So I'm getting Kin vibes. And the horns. And the horns are, again, kind of evocative of that. I definitely get those clumpy creatures. I could see them kind of dancing to this song. I remember from some of those earlier visuals of hers. I'd really love to see a visual for this one. I wonder if we will get another one. It's probably going to either be this one or Darkness is a Real Place. I don't know. I could see her doing the end of every song or Run Wild, but I don't know. Who is definitely a good closer. Maybe not the strongest closer she's ever had, but an interesting, alternative slice of electronica. There's a lot of, different things to process through it. So overall, it's a Jonna Lee project. I feel the heart. I feel the sort of the aching and the introspection. But sonically, I do feel it's just not quite on par with what she can deliver in other places. I think the choruses, the strongest of them, are all on the singles, along with track number 8. The rest, it feels like melody is an afterthought. It feels very much like lyric first, just some sort of rhythm that you're maybe in your head kind of putting to paper. And they don't feel quite as grandiose or sweeping. And Blue was such a grandiose and sweeping record. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not... It's a tough record for me. I appreciate it, but it's just... I have to be honest. It's not a standout. It's not a standout. But I will always be here for her poetry and for her distinct form of introspection. The visuals will always be a feast, and I'm just happy that she's making more projects. I mean, I don't think she wants to... I know that she's a mother now, and that must be... It's hard for her to balance. I'm impressed that she's putting out this many music videos and doing all this content. And this is a real gift, but it is not my favorite project from hers. It reminds me a little bit of Remember the Future in the fact that I felt similarly about that album. It was not... Those two are my least favorite projects of hers, probably, even though there are amazing songs on them. As a whole, there's some songs I'm not really coming back to much after a couple listens. What are your favorites? What do you agree? Do you disagree? Again, Luminary Rainbows and Innocence of Sound, my ultimate favorites. La La Love as well. Darkness is a Real Place, and Who, and Not Your Cherry. Those are my cherry-picked favorites. Let me know what yours are. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this review. I will see you all in my next one. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.